Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. We are so glad to be back with you. Got my words all mixed up. It's because Lena's kind of thrown me off a little bit with this black beret. So
yes, that's right. Keep the old revolutionary spirit alive, mustn't it?
Oh, absolutely. So it's so lovely to see you both, ladies. How are you guys? How are you doing? So first of all, Lady G, how's the throat? We can see you have a rather elegant, delicately placed.
Yes.
Is that lovely? But as you can hear, it's getting much better, leaps and bounds daily. You know, I feel quite well, but it's just technical difficulties waiting for it to come back fully.
That's
I can well imagine.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's added a little bit of extra of something to your voice, which I actually really quite like. Sorry, just my little thing.
You can make a bit on the side with the fantasy hotline thing going on there.
There's something to think about, huh?
Indeed. You know, lemonade. What's it? Lemon and lemonades and all that stuff.
Yeah, making lemonade out of lemons. Yep.
Indeed. And of course, Mademoiselle Lena, who's coming to us not only from Australia, but also Paris. What's inspired this ensemble today? It's lovely. I love it.
Well, you see, Lady G sets the bar. I thought I have to make an effort.
I love it. I love your beret.
And this is my shirt that's actually from Jamaica.
Oh, right. So we're blending continents as well.
Yes, around the world. That's us, 17 time zones.
There you go.
Yes, I know. Isn't it an extraordinary thing? Well, as you can imagine, folks and ladies, so the ladies really don't know what I've got written here on my various sheets of paper.
Oh, you're like me.
Yeah. And look, I'm sure you're the same, where you have to cross things out, rewrite things at the top. The notes don't appear in order because there is so much news.
So much stuff. Exactly. I'm doing a video after this, and it's the same thing. You know, it's like, I know.
Just pages. It's just pages.
So, and then some things you just can't get to because the next thing has happened. You know.
Exactly. It's so extraordinary. So before we proceed, I want to say hello and welcome, of course, to everyone. And if you've been enjoying the content here, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Many of you look, but not necessarily subscribe. And of course, the ladies' channels are also in the description below. And before we kick off on our little adventure, of course, there's the American news, but we're also going to be going to Indonesia, folks, and Russia. The Indonesian story, just brace yourselves, folks.
Okay.
Brace yourselves. It is out there. And what was I going to say? Astro weather. So obviously, look, we can see the pot is boiling. Yeah, we can all watch the news. You know, as I've been rabbiting on ad nauseum, the eclipses, they're happening in Aries. Well, they are. So if I do my, as you know, Hoagie eclipse calculator, here are the, oh God, it's backwards, isn't it? Here,
I love this calculator. It makes sense even to me as a non-astrologer.
Thank you. Well, here are the eclipses here happening in Aries, sidereal Aries, and sidereal Libra. Now, the eclipses will be moving because they always move backwards. So you see here, they're going to move backwards, into Pisces around about the end of November. So basically call it end of November, early December. They're going to move back and the energy is going to shift all over again. So we've had 18 months, well, soon to be 18 months in November of this Aries energy. Now, the part of Aries that the eclipses are in are called Ashwini. And Ashwini deals with literally youth and children, young people. Yeah, and of course, as you, unfortunately, the usual firearms, explosions, etc., but also deals with health and healing and all that stuff. But it deals with speed and things moving forward. Haven't we noticed how the speed has intensified? Yes. Yeah, and it will increase to do so. We're in that window now, and it's going to ratchet up a bit more. On the 20th, the eclipses happen. So let's see what happens a few days either side. But that's going to set the tone for the whole of the year. So we're seeing those themes brew already. Okay, so there's that. If anyone's got any questions, drop it in the comments below. Let's talk about a certain Clarence Thomas.
Oh,
I've just had a thought. We need to get the bard's opinion on him.
The bard on Clarence Thomas. Oh my goodness.
Just remembered we've not done him yet. So folks, many of you, of course, look, we all watch the same news, and we're all like these bottom feeders, aren't we? Kind of maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not. What's the better analogy? You've got the whale, and you have the fish that float next, or those big fish, and then you've got the little nippy fish that pick off the bits and bobs, a bit like that. Anyway,
they chew off the barnacles.
They chew off the barnacles. There we are. So no, we're not prawns. We're not prawns. I think we're more significant than that.
And Hola to Jeanette, who is in Ecuador. Bless.
Oh, pardon.
Thank you for joining us in Ecuador.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So for anyone who may or may not be familiar with the story, Clarence Thomas, surprise, surprise, it has been revealed that he has been schmoozing and networking and mingling between his sessions in the RV that he says he loves to travel in and parking in Walmart car parks. Yeah. And I was like, really? He also spends his time in the lap of billionaires. Yeah.
And I've just got an image of Clarence Thomas as a lap dancer. Oh, big on. Big on.
Goodness, can you imagine? I mean, that would scar one for life. I mean, first of all, he'd have to lift several body objects out the way for it to get interesting. Anyway, sorry. So he's been involved for a long time with a man called Harland Crow. Now, from what I've been able to establish, Harland Crow is a multi-billionaire Dallas property guy who supports the Federalist Society and all that. Anyway, they're all there in bed with each other. So apart from also giving Clarence Thomas a $19,000 Bible that belonged to someone important whose name I can't remember, people have asked, so Mary Morris, B. Butler, and Plucky Heroine, along many others, have asked, what is going to happen with Clarence Thomas? So I'm just lumping it together so we can read on it as a thing. So Mary Morris is asking, will he leave due to either retirement, impeachment, or health? B. Butler was asking, will he be forced to step down? So let's look at that. Will he have to move on because he gets impeached, or will he escape?
Yes. That donor, Crow, collects Hitler memorabilia. Nice.
It's just extraordinary.
All the money in the world, what do you spend it on?
And he says that also, I think he said the only thing he fears is Marxism. So that gives you another idea as well. Hitler memorabilia. Typical. All right. So what's the outcome for Monsieur Thomas? Will he be held to account? Or will it be health or whatever? Or will nothing happen? We'll have to see it. It's just so slippery and slimy, isn't it? The whole shit.
And don't forget, those of us who are old enough, we first came across him in the 90s after his inappropriate behavior with Anita Hill. Yeah. And she went through hell over that, for that guy.
Wow. What, for Clarence Thomas? Was he involved with a lady?
Yes.
Wow.
Who was employed by him, and she had there were awful court cases, and she got enormous pressure and awfulness, and he just swung through. So that's dreadful.
It's been more than one lady too.
Oh, there's never only one. Never one.
Oh, wow. Okay, who's ready to go? And thank you, Kathleen, for your donation. Thank you so much. Oh, oh, oh.
Oh, Lordy. Will I
Okay.
go?
Sure, go for it.
Okay.
Mademoiselle.
It kicks off with the Empress, who in this case, it could be the awful Ginny Thomas, but I don't think so. I think the Empress here is just representing things expanding around these issues. Powerful people, including the donor, are strategizing how they can help Clarence. Ooh, yeah. The GOP has an opportunity or a decision to do something about him because the Dems are talking about it, but they can't be the only ones to hold up law and order in America. So this is the GOP. Then two contradictory cards, but I think they're about sequencing. Here's a celebration. On the one hand, I think we'll think things are going to happen and be quite happy about it, Clarence Thomas. And then I think this is us being disappointed, unfortunately.
Ding, 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 ding.
Now, those cards could be read the opposite way, that he celebrates getting off and he's crying himself to sleep. But I'm leaning more to my first interpretation. So I think we'll think things are happening and there'll be mutterings, but I don't think it will.
Lady G, what do you have?
Well, at the very center of it, we have, of course, the wealth and holding on to it.
Look.
Yeah.
Incredible, isn't it, folks? Incredible.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
yeah. Through the King of Pentacles.
Can you imagine? Look, we are 17. This is 17 time zones, folks, and we've
78 cards each.
That's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lady G, proceed.
Yes, at the center of it, we have the wealth and things that are happening. And so looking much deeper, wanting to look deeper into the health or the illness of this as it is. But going into it, we have, of course, somebody wanting to come forward and speak and look at it, but we have cutting with the obstructions of it. So yeah, we're not going to let it get out. Also, we have a woman that's got power. Now, I forget what's her name. The one that's the real, No, somebody that's one of the contributors of monetary stuff.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Yeah.
Rebecca Mercer?
Yeah, Mercer. I think it's her holding on to power and trying to do the protection in going forward for this, protecting him. Because the challenge is the monetary thing and being able to find our path forward with it, with the dark elements. But we also have, again, the evangelicals, etc., supporting. And I think with the evangelicals, we have the Federalist Society as well. And the last thing, clarification, is, of course, the Repugly Uglies that are going to slow move this and protect him because why? They're vipers. Okay. So yeah, it's not going to happen. We're going to want to see it, but they're going to be rallying around him to protect him.
As they all do, isn't it? I mean, it's God. I mean, sometimes when it comes to the GOP, I mean, it's the cards barely change. I mean, how many times do we get? It's like the same cards every week. You see us shuffling away, and look, I find that extraordinary, even in terms of a synchronicity, even by our standards, for all of us to have the King of Pentacles, and we're talking about billionaires. And you know, the likes of Clarence Thomas, I do find it astonishing. All right, what cards do I have before we move from this? Oh, this beastly man. So here we are. This is what we're talking about. There we are, King of Pentacles. We all know what this is about.
Yeah.
If it's dealing with ordinary people, this can be a man who's done well for himself, legacies and all this stuff. But, you know, look, it's the money, it's the corruption. Yeah, we know it's just dripping, seeping with corruption. Yeah. So here he is. I mean, at least he's been quite smart in the sense of he's just kind of like outed everything out, kind of, you know, whatever. And it's giving the impression of cooperation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. However, if we look here, we've got the 8 of Wands, and the 8 of Wands normally means what? Speed, yeah, speed, things rapidly moving forward. But guess what? As you know, in a 5-card spread, this can also be the obstacle position. So it's almost like it's like that, which means what? Things being slowed down, which is what both of you ladies have got, yeah? So I think they're going to try and cakewalk this, yeah? Obviously, look, here we are. We got the High Priestess, which is normally a nice card, but as you know, well, it can be quite a nice card, but as you know, because we're dealing with these ghastly individuals, we know it's all the negative connotations, the machinations, the dealings behind the scenes, the illicit methods and horse trading and mishegoss that these people absolutely adore. And she turned up in the middle, yeah? Yeah, 9 of Swords. Yeah, is that the 9? Yeah, that 9 of Swords. So look, he is a little bit worried about it for now. So he's having slightly sleepless nights and stuff like that. It's like, oh, how am I going to get out of this one? But look what he gets as the outcome card. The Star. Yeah. And the Star can sometimes refer to, you know, it often has nice spiritual connotations of rebirth, but it can also mean usually, but not when we're talking about these people. So this could mean second chances. Yeah. So it looks like he might be sweating for a little bit, and then his little friends, yeah, the wife, Ginny Thomas and Mercers and all that, they'll do their little kind of mishegoss stuff. And it looks like, I mean, if he's got that outcome card, it looks like, I mean, look, we all hope that he'll be kicked off, but when you look at all three of us together, it doesn't look likely, does it, ladies?
No.
Anything to add to that before we move on, or before we do Shakespeare?
Oh, yes.
Oh, did you want to add anything? No?
No.
Oh, good. All right. Okay. Whose turn is it to call now? Who did it last week?
I think it's Lady. Oh.
Wait, I can't remember. Who did it last week?
Lena's.
I think it's
Okay,
you.
it'll be me. All right.
Yeah.
And then just so you know, for everyone watching as well, we'll see you on Sunday as well. Many of you watch on Sunday, and we're going to have the Bard speak about the GOP as a whole at the end. That's what someone asked.
Woody.
All right, I've got my eyes closed, Lena. You tell me where to stop, and we'll see what the Bard thinks about Thomas.
And stop.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, this is okay. All right. Now, this is the Bard. Yeah, this is what the Bard has to say about Clarence Thomas. Oh, dear. Thy mother took into her blameful bed some stern, untutored churl, whose fruit thou art. And that's from Henry VI, Part 2. Shall I read it one more time? I mean, that is just wow. Thy mother took into her blameful bed some stern, untutored churl. Fruit thou art. And on the other page, because we like to read the other page as well. And then what does the Bard have to say here? Scratching could not make it worse, such a face as yours.
Oh.
And that's much ado about nothing. Scratching could not make it worse, such a face as yours. I think that, well, that's pretty, you know, and it's so interesting because on his videos, on his little videos, where he pretends to be everyone's little granddad and, oh, yes, I'm driving around. And he's like, I love Walmart. I love staying in these places. It's a load of rubbish. He loves yachts, private jets.
Yes.
What is it? A $500,000 vacation?
Yeah.
Walmart. We know all that all translates out to Walmart, 500,000.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we know what's happening now. They're all basically negotiating, all these billionaires, as we've read before, because we always get that the emperor, don't we? And that can speak about what? Patriarchy, rules, regulations. You have an elite set, essentially, of billionaires, global billionaires of all stripes, folks, all stripes, it's not just the GOP, who are essentially, via their money and bribery and coercion, steering global politics with their machinations and stuff like that. And we need to listen a bit more to Bernie Sanders. That's all I'm going to say. All right.
Yeah.
So,
less Bernie.
Yeah, indeed. No politician's perfect, but he really does speak a lot of sense about certain things. Are we ready to move on?
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right. We've got over 1,000 of you with us now. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Let's talk about Tennessee. Yeah. And these two remarkable, well, actually three, but two remarkable characters who have burst onto the global stage, or at least the stage of the US politics. And we're talking about the Justins. Yeah. One is called Justin Jones and the other one is called Justin Pearson. And they're both, from what I understand, Democratic representatives from district, is it 71 or something? Forgive me if I got the district wrong.
I don't know.
District something. Anyway, as we know, there has been more horrific shootings. We don't need to go into the details. We all know what's happened. So they used their First Amendment rights to actually side and with the people protesting and actually challenge their kind of local Congress, which is mainly Republican, to pass sensible gun laws. Yeah. And for doing that, they were expelled. Can you imagine? When you think of the dastardly characters that litter the GOP, let alone in Tennessee and whatever, for doing far, far, far worse things, the second that they speak up in the defense of school children and families, they get expelled. 3 of them were put up for expulsion. The other character in this trifecta is someone called Gloria Johnson. And she was with these young men who are, one's 27, Justin Jones is 27, and the other one is 28, Justin Pearson, very close in age, 2 young black men. She was able to stay on and they got flicked off. And she just called it out as it was. She just called out the racism for what it was. And it's created this huge furore and there's all of this movement and stuff. So the question is, what is the impact going to be of all of this?
Right. In Tennessee or further afield?
Yeah, Tennessee. And then we'll see if big cards turn up. Then we can see. That will let us know it would have a larger impact. And Annie Hamlet also wanted to know. So what's the impact of all this ugly that we see? Also, Teresa Potter wanted to know about this as well. So those 2 ladies had questions. And I say good on Gloria Johnson as well. I mean, good for her.
Yes, in the comments it says she had a student shot at school and that was her motivation.
But don't you think it's astonishing? And I was listening to the rhetoric from both of these men. Don't you think it's astonishing that we literally are having not only people but children be like decapitated, totally mutilated, unrecognizable?
Yes.
And this is a debate. And I think it was Representative Justin Pearson who reprimanded one of the guys that was saying to him, who told him that he and the protesters outside were having temper tantrums. This was reported on, I got this report from Democracy Now!, which is something I kind of occasionally look at from time to time.
Yeah.
It's just astonishing. What's the outcome? Okay. Who's ready to go?
I can, if you like.
Go for it. Oh, I must have the cards.
Looks like so much of what's happening, excuse me, it is so bad and so crude that it's out there. It's capturing people's attention. Okay, I think the two young men in this case are the Knight of Cups. So although we occasionally refer to this as the false knight, in this case, I think it's the true knight speaking up.
Yeah, the virtuous knight, yeah.
The virtuous knight. And here's the world card. Here, so this is big. You were saying if big cards turn up, right? And I did a clarifier on that, which was the viaggio, or the trip. And so I think they're going to travel, whether that's literally or online, because I think it's going to have quite a catastrophic result long-term in Tennessee, in the sense of it's like anything with the tower. Things have to get very bad. They need to crash sometimes to get better. And this is so blatant. It is so blatant.
So egregious, yeah.
And they are smart and they are charming, and they are now already national names and international names, whereas if they hadn't been expelled, who would know their names, right? So I think that's what this world is about here. And I think they'll be part of the magic of the transition with the magician here.
Wow.
I think that they'll become bigger and more powerful because of this.
Wow. Wow. Lady G, what do you have?
Well, at the center of it, we have looking at going forward, the energy, what we can do, how to move things forward, conversations of light, more conversations due to this. Going into it, we have, of course, the illusion and the drama of those if the GOP that have done this, trying to move it forward. But I think that there are going to be people that are, again, looking at this and wanting to move it forward out of this illusion and drama that we have going with the GOP. Now, I don't know if any of you saw the young man, one of them that got expelled out of there was such a great speaker. I listened to him speak, and he was just fabulous. Just so intelligent, that boy. So let's see. So we have here, again, going into what's going now, we're looking at possible legality and that how these ones are still trying to manipulate it, and again their deception and the things they continue to do. But they're on a time schedule with this. I think it's going to eventually come to a close, because we have the challenges, the pain of this mentally, physically, and we have those of the uber right. This is my card usually for Trump and those like him, and they're trying to, again, create some new storyline, move it into something else. But the clarification is this is going to shed light on the heart of it, and there will be some short-term success. So I think that, because these young men are so well-spoken, I think one of them is a minister as well. Wasn't it? They said one of them is a minister.
Yeah.
And I think the woman in there is the Democratic woman that's standing up for them. And so I think it's just going to be a lot more conversations, and they're going to get a lot more play, which is good. We need to have these. We need to have this, looking at this. So I guess they also met with Kamala.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris went and spoke with them as well.
Wow. Wow, fascinating. Yeah, before I pull my cards, and I've got major arcana as well. So I would suggest we all got major arcana. So this is going to get bigger, folks.
This isn't going to fade in 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is going to rumble on, and I think that one of the main reasons as well, and again, just tying back in that energy of the eclipses, Aries deals with youth. It literally is a youthful sign. And Ashwini is about speed. So that's why I've been kind of banging on. I said, there's going to be something about youth or youthful people coming forward in righteous protest, because the higher vibration of that Martian energy is the fighting the good fight. So we see the shadow of the eclipse with the Thomases and, and all of the yuck and rubbish that is coming up, but now we're seeing these young voices come forward, and they are so eloquent, devastatingly so, because they're able to. I was just watching it, even as this guy was being expelled, and he was just tearing shreds. I mean, they may as well have been naked, all of them, but with such beautiful, concise, sharp, yet and lacerating language, but very elegant, and that's very appealing. And the one as well, I think it's Pearson, who's the preacher. I mean, he really was actually really starting to take it to church. He's got the big afro like that, and I was like, oh my God, this is someone who's watched a few speeches of Martin Luther King. But when you've got people like that, they're young, and what that will do is, not that, we can't be, too fixated on age, but to see two such young men of color speak so passionately and eloquently in an articulate way, hitting the red button of exactly these issues that we've talked about. And the thing that was most devastating for me, what he said, and he says, like, before you expel me, which is what you guys are going to do, just remember, I wasn't only fighting for the children of this local area as well. He said, I was fighting for your children and your grandchildren as well. Oh, right round the top. Everyone getting bright red, and they're like, you're expelled, while internally they're all getting chewed up.
Exactly. I mean, you see these young men so well spoken and so intelligent, and then we get ones like Bobert and Marjorie Trader Green that can barely put together a sentence and are so egregious, and they do nothing about it. But because these young men protested, oh no, off with their heads, get rid of them. Horrible.
Yeah, and it's had the opposite effect, which
exactly. These guys are now going to be heard across the nation.
Indeed, and we're talking about them, and so many other platforms. They're on all of the liberal platforms pretty much, and they're getting their voice out. So the major arcana is backing it up. Okay.
You know what just hit me? These young men could go forward to become president someday. Let's hope somebody like that gets in, because they are so intelligent
themselves, or they inspire that next generation to be engaged and become a president. So I think it's had the opposite effect for sure.
Absolutely. Right. Okay, I'll quickly get my cards done, and then we'll move on to the next, because then we're going to jump in our esoteric plane, and we're going to go to Russia. To have a little look at
let me get my Russian cards out while you're reading.
Get your Russian cards ready, and all of your cards to do with scheming and all sorts of machinations. As we have over 1,200 of you have joined us now live. Thank you so much. Right, my cards here now. Isn't this interesting to talk about? The first card I get up here is the Nine of Pentacles. You wouldn't necessarily think of it.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, now, obviously, look, this is the way I'm seeing it. And particularly in terms of the language that both gentlemen used to describe, this is referring to the ease, largesse, and comfort of the establishment, who are just we're just going to sit back. Nothing needs to change, just grease our palms with money. And he called it out. He said, how much longer are we just going to take the paychecks from the National Rifle Association? Didn't hold back. He just laid it back. I was almost squirming in my seat. I mean, with pleasure, but also as well.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So this is what he was attacking, this kind of, because we know this card, when we're talking about ordinary people, can be a very positive card. But when we're talking about these Slytherin, this can also mean what? The harlot, the prostitute. Or the bed swerver, as the bard said of Marjorie Turner Green. That's still stuck in my mind, the bed swerver. I mean,
sorry, I'm crying.
The bard. So this, for me, represents this entrenched, entitled, moneyed, taking the money to the highest bid or whatever. They don't give a damn about the people dying or whatever, because they've got what they want, they've got their money, and I'm all right, Jack. Screw the rest. Yeah. However, look what's turned up here in the obstacle position. Ooh, these gentlemen have put a cat amongst the pigeons, because now this solid, comfortable kind of life seems to be a little bit in flux. Wouldn't we agree with the two pentacles in the obstacle position? You'll notice here that the man is trying to balance on these choppy waters. So these young men have really kind of destabilized things, which is why they wanted to get rid of them. Yeah, because they've been mixing it up. But look, the government's involved. And what they've done is, from their arrogant comfort, trying to stop this disablement. Now they're on first name terms with Kamala Harris, and they're now saying the Biden administration, I think it was Ocasio-Cortez, I forget the, OAC, Alexandria, isn't it? Something like that. She said, and I think she was actually demanding, she said, the Biden government should overturn. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm thinking as well about the abortion pills. Give me a minute. But she also mentioned the case. Anyway, the point is they have now come to the eye of the highest level in government. However, look, we have the confusion card who's topped out. Now, the reason why I think this has turned out, we know that these men are two of the most clear-sighted people to have ever spoken on a platform for quite some time. I think this discombobulation is to do with the GOP, how to deal with them. But I also sense as well, this is a bit of a conundrum for the Biden administration. How do we handle this hotcake? Because you know what it's like with the Dems. We don't want to look too political. We don't want to look like this, even though the GOP are stuffing themselves with money and doing goodness knows what else. However, look at the outcome card. Ooh, another major arcana and justice. So I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of machinations. Gloria said, I expect these two men to be reestablished, but apparently the whole thing has been threatened, and they're saying we're going to cancel the funding for everyone if the gentlemen are let back in. Can you believe it? So there's going to be a bit of Michigas twisting and turning, which hopefully will lead to justice. But we're going to see some more ugly folks, unfortunately. Anything else to that, ladies?
But how is what they did different from Marjorie Taylor Greene in New York with a bullhorn? It's unveiled. The scales are being taken from people's eyes because they're just so crude at it now.
Yeah, it's blatant. There's no other. We all know it's completely racist. It just
absolutely to the core.
Yeah, to the absolute core.
Maybe this will move people to get rid of much of the GOP in the next election there in Tennessee after this.
Certainly with the younger generation as well, who cannot help but to be engaged and I hope inspired by seeing someone in their demographic, irrespective of color, whatever. It doesn't matter for that generation now, pretty much, unless they're in some indoctrinated whatever. But they will have inspired a lot of people. So huge, like they say, the pen is mightier than the sword. Let's hope that they do write up articles and stuff like that. Okay, let's jump in our little esoteric aeroplane and take ourselves to Russia. Yeah, a few of you have been asking. So look, I've got a little bit of spiel here to kind of read out for you guys, and I'll just quickly get through it as quickly as I can. But long story short is this: someone's defected, yeah, from Putin's inner ranks. Have you ladies heard about this? Yeah.
Yes, I've heard.
I don't know his name, but basically there was a business trip once upon a time last year in October to Kazakhstan. Yeah. So there he is standing next to Putin, you know, one of those tall, gray, you know, could be exchanged with a block of wood type people. You would never really know. Anyway, so he said, oh, I'm not feeling well. I've got a bit of an upset stomach. I need a little bit more time to stay in the hotel. It was all BS. Yeah. What it turns out is he was planning his escape. So he managed to get his wife and his daughter together, managed to get to the airport and effectively defect. His plane was delayed. He had to switch off his phone and he was really worrying that he would get caught. The important thing is what he's divulged about Putin. So here we are. Let me just get so one of the things he revealed is that Putin, surprise, surprise, is pathologically afraid for his life. He said pathologically afraid for his life and living in an information cocoon. And he said he's spending most of his time with these advisors who are obviously just telling him what he wants to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says Putin doesn't carry a mobile phone and he doesn't pay attention to the internet. Yeah. So he's literally in a bubble. He also said Putin spends a lot of time creating these chartered flights to go around Russia saying, I'm going here, I'm going there, when he actually stays put and sits down and watches Russian propaganda. So he's consuming, almost like he's consuming his own excrement, for a better word.
Yeah.
You know, literally consuming all of this. So he's doing these fake flights. He travels around Russia on a train, his own personal train, which is made to look out like a normal train. But when you look at it, you can see it looks pretty new and it's his. And he's going from residencies to residencies in this kind of bunker kind of style. So he's basically completely separated himself from reality. So what I want to ask is what's in the next month for Putin? And we'll ask Shakespeare what he thinks about Putin's shot. Yeah.
Oh, let's do it. Next month, where are we? April, May.
See if it comes back.
Yeah, in the comments. Yes, he's brainwashing himself. That's ironic.
Yes. Yeah. Remember too as well, Aries is what? The sign of spring. Spring is basically sprung. They say Ukraine are regrouping and retraining with new weapons. Remember too as well, Aries is war, guys. It is war, as I've been saying. But let's see what the eclipses will bring out. Could it be some, pardon me, decisive? Who's ready to go?
I'm doing some clarifiers here.
What's going on? Did I get the deck upside down again?
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Go for it, lady.
So what we have going into it overarching, we have fireworks by those that were close to him, such as the guy that defected. This is really affecting him. Going into it when it comes to temperance and any kind of balance, I think he's in his ivory tower and the time clock is ticking, and he's going into the dark agendas of the fear mode, etc. Going into it, he's still trying to get away with the stuff, but at the heart of it, it's being eaten away. So
the rats come back. Oh,
yeah, the rats come back. So yeah, he's not able to keep it up as much as he's trying. He's trying to have those close to him, the path forward, advising, but he doesn't listen to many, just the very closest ones that are going to continue to BS him and give him whatever he wants to hear. The challenge is the burden of going forward and the things that are coming out. And I think also the stuff that's happening with 45, and he's also the same narcissistic stuff that he sees these things coming down. It could also be the charges that they're laying at his feet now as a war criminal. So that could be also weighing on him. So the last clarifier is about going forward. He's trying to find those that can actually go forward and do the long-term path for him. But things are not working out well for him. It's all weighing on him now.
Wow. Okay. Lena, what do you have?
Well, there's a pattern. So this is the 9 of Cups. The good luck. This is Lady G described it as his ivory tower. Yes, this is him, fully protected. He's still doing some deals internationally, mainly Iran and China. But this is the card I was interested in. Now, this is the Death card. Now, this is in the Russian deck. With this card, I don't think it's a portent of his death so much as the death of the idea, the death of what he stood for, the death of his dream, the death of it all happening, I think is ticking away. And I went for clarifiers on what was Putin's greatest fear. You're going to love these. Being, can we say, a prisoner of his own enemy.
Wow.
Monica.
Wow.
That's his big fear, being a prisoner.
Very interesting. Wow. I've got something similar, actually. Just say here, Sonia gave us a hello earlier. This was probably way up in the chat. You guys are probably much more further along in the chat than I am. Okay. Putin's cards, and I had to pull 3 clarifiers on that position, and of the 3 clarifiers that I pull, all of them are major arcana. Oh, yeah. So if we look here, we're talking about Putinshka here, and then we'll see what the bard has to say. But here he is, yeah. Do you remember? He was like, yeah. I'm just going to go into Ukraine. It's going to be easy, and they're going to throw flowers at me, yeah. I'm going to be welcomed, yeah? What a fool, yeah? My goodness, he couldn't have been further from the truth. But that showed his attitude at the start.
Yeah.
And, of course, look, we got here 5 of Swords, which we all know what is the conflict, the abuse of power, yeah? So obvious. By whom? The Emperor, yeah? The man that sees himself as the Emperor. He says Peter the Great, but really it's Catherine the Great. He even said himself. It honestly is. I swear, I bet you any money, he has gone into the Hermitage, and I think he's felt up a few of those dresses. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Yeah.
But no, he admires them both, Catherine the Great and Peter the Great. Anyway, this is him seeing himself as what? Emperor. Yeah. But he's having to Emperor. Also as well, look. Pentacles, King of Pentacles. So he's kind of insulating himself. Yeah. I've also got the, the 9 of Cups.
Yeah, same
really talk about him insulating himself. He's like, well, I've got my money, I've got my dasha, I've got my castle, I've got my train. It's like he's using all of these materialistic things to kind of cocoon and protect himself from the reality that it's all going horribly wrong. So I had to pull 3 clarifying cards on this 9 of Cups. And what's interesting here, this is where another 3 major arcana come in. Look against the world, yeah? The world is watching, but we all know what the world can mean when it turns up. It can mean completing a cycle. Endings and beginnings, beginnings and endings. Could he be coming, or could we be coming? Will the eclipses bring us an end to the conflict over the spring? Or will something new come out? We'll have to see. In the middle of it, he gets the Fool. And so this isn't about him. Well, in a way, it's he is being foolish, but at the same time, by insulating himself, he's giving himself false faith. Do you know what I mean? In regards to the world, yeah? Because the world is saying, listen, honey buns, we're going to be taking you to the court of, you know, international crime or whatever. And he's like, really? Who, me? Are you sure you're going to be able to get me? Because I've got everything I need to stay safe. And I've got this train. Try and catch me on this train. Yeah. But look, the outcome card ultimately for him is the High Priestess. What this says to me is it tells me that really Putin's biggest worry is his own side. Just like where I think where you got the cards, this is the machinations. This is what I think why he's paranoid, because he knows there's a lot of this going on behind the scenes. And maybe that's why he is pathologically afraid of being poisoned and stuff. And he's using material means to kind of protect himself. But I think he knows deep down it's not working. Anything else to add to that, ladies, before we ask the bard?
All right. I'd just like to pick up on a comment here by Julie Goliff. Hi, Julie. Ooh. She's thanking Hogarth and me. She had readings with both of us. And we were right. Her house sold today. And thank you for the perfect consultations. So she's a veteran's widow who's done it tough. And so I am really pleased for you, Julie. Awesome.
Well done, Julie. I said to Julie, I said it's going to come close to the eclipses. I said, you're in the window now. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, that's fabulous news. I'm so glad about that. Woo. Okay. I mean, it was a big deal. Trust me, folks, it was a big deal. All right. So, Lady G.
Yes.
It's now your turn to select what the bard has to say about Putinshka. All right, I'm closing my eyes.
I wouldn't want to be in Putinshka's shoes for this.
You tell me where to stop.
Okay, now.
Now? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, this is interesting. And I normally like to get another page because there's only got one character. Oh, it's fallen. Let me go. It's fallen right at the end of something. And let's see what the page is before. Oh, this is really interesting. Okay, this is really interesting what the bard has had to say here. On this page, which is, and this is from Much Ado About Nothing, it says, being no other but as she is, I do not like her. Yeah?
You
think? Interesting, because we've all had an opinion on that.
And then if I go to the previous page, because there were 2 pages dividing, so I've had to go backwards on this one. And it's interesting again. It says here, she has been sluiced in absence and his pond fished by his next neighbor. I'll read that again. What does that mean? This has been the bard has been very subtle with Putin here. He's not just come out with the slaps. So I'll read the first one again. Being no other but as she is, I do not like her. I find the she interesting. Is it funny? I was teasing about Catherine the Great. And that's from Much Ado About Nothing. And it says here, she has been sluiced in absence and his pond fished by his next neighbor, and that's on the Winter's Tale. What it means is it means what the bard is saying is that the person in question has been cuckolded. Yeah, when he says she's been sluiced, in absence, and his pond fished by his next neighbor.
Yes.
But when you think about that, that really does speak quite a lot about the mindset of Putin, because our cards were picking up that he's worried about what? Someone doing something behind his back. And isn't it interesting? He said, and his pond fished by his next neighbor. That would be Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Ukraine
also NATO.
NATO.
Finland going to NATO.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which one was it that just joined NATO, and they're in a long area?
Finland.
Yeah,
Finland,
and they've got the longest border with Russia, isn't it? Because when you think about that, I think that is talking. She has been sluiced in absence, and his pond fished by his next neighbor. Yeah, I think the bard is talking of wow. It makes sense, isn't it? The neighbor is, of course, Ukraine, but also Finland, and they've just joined NATO, because this changes the balance of power.
Yeah.
Yes. So now NATO can put their defensive things right along that border, which is almost like how Putin would see his lake being fished by someone else.
Yes, and this is his worst nightmare before he even started Ukraine, because Sweden will now join NATO.
Of course. So it's, he has had the opposite effect, just like those justices in Tennessee. They've had the opposite effect.
Yes.
You get for being so wicked. All right, how much time do we have? Oh my gosh, the time has gone so quickly already. Let's see. Okay, let's
Indonesia.
end.
What happened? Indonesia.
Let's end on Indonesia, because it's so strange and so bizarre. I think we need to hear it. There was a Ron DeSantis, but we can look at him next week, because that douchebag is always going to be around in some way. Right. This story has come in from The Guardian. Brace yourselves, folks. Now, there has been an absence of this festival, as it were, for the last 3 years, because there's been lockdown and COVID and stuff like that. But I'm sure you and the audience would be pleased to know that the Maudry, no, is it? Is it Maudley? The Maundy Thursday. I've not written it properly.
Maundy Thursday.
Maundy, sorry, Maundy.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, the day before Good Friday.
Yeah.
And what's happened is that crucifixion is now back.
You mean like the Philippines, where people actually do reenactments?
Yeah, and I just had to stop and pause when I read this. So there's a guy called Ruben NRJ. I think I may have said his name wrong, but he fell off. I think it was the top of a 10-story building. Yeah, fell off the top of a 10-story building and survived unscathed. It was basically a miracle. And he has been putting himself forward, because this is actually quite a thing in Indonesia, where they do these reenactments. Apparently, allegedly, the church is against it. But they call it, what do they call it? They call it folk Catholicism, which is a blend of Catholicism and other stuff. Yeah. So this guy, he's 62 years old. 12 men registered, but only 8 went through it. But this guy, he was doing it for the 34th time. 34th time of being literally crucified, nails through the hands and everything. And he says, I just tell myself I can get through it. I can get through it. And he said he does it because, he wants to basically eradicate COVID-19 from the world, and he wants the war in Ukraine to stop, because, as we know, it's pushed up so many prices. We know there's lots of price gouging in there, but particularly for countries that are not as wealthy as the West, this has been horrific, these huge prices. And so he's called Ruben Energy, 44th time being crucified in San Pedro Cutad.
Sorry, you sure this isn't the Philippines?
Philippines, I think it's like the Philippines.
It's Philippines. Indonesia is Muslim,
Yeah.
And it has a very small Catholic population. It wasn't making sense to me, this story. It has to be the Philippines.
Yeah, I think it's the Philippines because like the article dotted all around and it kept saying Indonesia, but near Manila and all this kind of stuff. So
yes, that's right.
So there we are. So Philippines. So my question is, will this extreme piety expand and become more popular?
Should we do a one card?
Yeah. Let's do a one card pull.
One card. Yes. And I remember when I first went to the Philippines, which was 1974 or something, massively Catholic country. And the poverty was just excruciating to witness. Right outside these cathedrals dripping in gold, you had little children picking up scraps of this in the street and eating them. It's just unacceptable. And in those extreme conditions, this is a sort of extreme thing that happens.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
That desperate, isn't it? That, in fact, actually, I realised I turned over my card before I should. Let me just, oh, gosh. All right, one card pull. Will this thing kind of thing expand? I mean, you have to have pretty desperate, dire situations to even want to put yourself forward for crucifixion in the first place, let alone do it 34 times. I mean, they may as well just put the nail back in the same hole. It's just extraordinary, isn't it? Okay. After 3, are we ready? 1, 2, 3.
Interesting split.
Very interesting. All right, Lena, how do you interpret your card?
Okay, the Fool in the sense of the beginning of an awakening and so forth, but I don't think it means that this is going to become a popular thing, but it gives him tremendous kudos within a superstitious, deep form of religiosity. Most people wouldn't have that commitment to God or to anything else. So I think he's unique, and he has complete faith. We forget that with the Fool, of course. Complete faith. And you can't just will yourself to have that, this is,
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Lady G, how do you interpret your card?
Well, I see this as, desperate times, people become even more religious and holding to that. But again, they could have some of the Catholicism that's not so happy with it, the Pope. But again, those that are the uber religious would continue with this.
Yeah. It's remarkable, isn't it, that you literally got the Pope card. That is literally the Pope. Because it's the Pope and the 2 disciples right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And here, sorry, I've got the 5 of Swords. Yeah, so we can see here. I mean, in many ways, like this, we say it's like an abuse of power and stuff. I mean, I think this is the wider abuse and the exploitation. The fact that people are having to go to such extremes, crucify themselves in order to give themselves an extra zoop of spiritual juice, as it were, and the fact that this guy has done it 34 times. That's the part that I just found absolutely astonishing. So
you find the first 3 or 4 are the hardest.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, he's probably put the nail through here. That's it.
That's right.
I'm ready now. All right. It's just astonishing. And they hung up for like 10 minutes, they said, and then they're taken back down. But even so, I mean, I've never heard of anything like this in my life. So this can also talk as well about that conflict in the sense of the bloodiness of it, because what they do as well, they kind of get glass and they make it more bloody as well to add a bit of theatre to it. And even tourists go and have a look. And they were like, wow, it wasn't as terrible as I thought it would be. But really what I think this is talking about, this is speaking to me about the mismanagement of power, funds, the fact that people are even having to entertain such extreme ideas of piety in of itself is a condemnation, isn't it, for what they have to live through. So we'll have to see. I'm not sure if it will catch on massively, but wow. So that's an Easter story for you. Right.
Yes, ultimately.
Anything else to add to that, ladies, before?
Can we send love to Angel Wings, please? She's had a recent fall. So blessings, Angel Wings.
Blessings, Angel Wings.
Love your
definitely.
name.
Oh. And so thank you, everyone, for joining us. We've got over 1,400. Oh, the bard on the GOP. I almost forgot.
Oh, yeah. Promises. You must deliver.
Yes, the bard on the GOP. All right. So who's it? Is it you? Is it? I think it's you again, Lena, isn't it?
It's
all right.
Lena's
Closing my
turn.
eyes.
Oh, okay. Let's
see what the bard. Everyone's been
GOP.
put the bird three times tonight. And you tell me where to stop, and we'll see what he says about the GOP.
And stop.
Oh, this is very interesting. All right. Thou elvish marked abortive rooting hog. Isn't that interesting? Richard III. I'll read it again.
Please.
Thou elvish marked abortive rooting hog. And isn't it interesting? The word abortive is in there.
Yes.
You see how the bard gets it every time. Let's read the other page. And that's from Richard III. It says here, his intellect is not replenished. He is only an animal, only sensible in the duller parts. And that's from Love's Labour Lost.
Love it. Please, can we have that last one again? Because they're so juicy.
And again, it's so pertinent. It says his intellect is not replenished. He is only an animal, only sensible in the duller parts. And that's from Love's Labour's Lost. I think, does that not just sum up what the whole GOP is about? Wow. The bard strikes again.
The bard speaks.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. We've run over time now. And, of course, the ladies have got things to do. So thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've been entertained. And, of course, to the ladies' channels as well, who are in the description below. Thank you so much for joining us and your donations and the comments, which is something to be behold on its own. And again, as always, the bard with such elegance. I need to read it one more time.
The GOP.
Is not replenished. He is only an animal, only sensible in the duller parts. Wow. From Love's Labour's Lost. I think that just wraps it all up.
Oh, truly.
Well, folks, we will see you next week, of course. Thank you so much for joining us. And until the next time. All right. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.